I'm Ted Ts'o, and I currently serve as treasurer for the Diocese of Massachusetts. On behalf of the Budget Committee, I'm here to give a brief introduction to the proposed 2025 budget for our diocese. Today, we're going to cover four main items. First, we'll discuss changes in how this year's budget booklet has been organized. Secondly, we'll provide an overview for the proposed 2025 budget. Next, we'll discuss the three-year budget forecast. And finally, I'll quickly summarize the status from the Budget Strategy and Governance Committee. The budget booklet this year is 64 pages. All of this detail has been included to make the budget as transparent as process, living into the mission strategy goal, communicating our progress regularly and transparently. However, some might find that daunting. I hope this presentation will ease your introduction to the 2025 budget. This year, we've reorganized the budget booklet so you no longer have to flip through the whole book looking for all of the charts and figures. Instead, they've been grouped together at the beginning of the booklet with the narrative budget and other supporting detail moved afterwards. We hope that this makes the proposed diocesan budget more accessible. Please send any comments or suggestions you might have on how we might further improve the presentation of the diocesan budget to me or to our CFO, Deb Thomas. On page 6 of the budget booklet, you will see the budget resolution that will be put before convention. Moved that the 239th annual Convention of the Episcopal Diocese of Massachusetts approved the budget of revenue and expenses for 2025 as summarized on page 9, including the individual parish and mission assessments and approved adjustments for 2025 listed on pages 16 through 19. In addition, a portion of Canon 10 is reprinted, which describes the budget process as mandated by our Constitution and canons. Next, you will find a summary of our mission strategy as adopted in 2021 on pages 7 and 8, since the budget has been created to support our mission strategy. This slide shows a pie chart of the income side of the 2025 budget. As you can see, over half of the income comes from assessments and contributions in lieu of assessments from congregations in our diocese. The next largest source of income is fund draws from our diocese agency and trust funds, which is 28%, plus grants from the draw of bishop-directed funds, which is 7%. This slide shows a pie chart of the expense side of the 2025 budget. Like many congregations, a very large percentage of our budget goes to personnel costs. If you add the compensation and benefits portion of the budget, which is 44%, and professional fees and consultants, which is 4%, it is very nearly half of our budget. The second largest category is grants to mission initiatives, the wider church, and congregations, which makes up 21% of the budget, followed by the assessments our diocese pays to the Episcopal Church and Province 1, which together are 8% of the budget. Resources to clergy and congregations together make up 8% of the budget. Starting in 2022, we have prepared three-year budget projections and included it in the budget booklet to be presented to convention. Credit for this goes to Cynthia Hollenbeck, who was our interim CFO before Deb Thomas joined the team as CFO. The budget forecast uses projected changes that we can foresee in our income and expenses so that we can make long-term financial plans. For the past 3 years, the budget projection has shown gaps between our projected income and expenses, and in the following year, the proposed budget has our income and expenses in balance, as is required by Canon 10. How were these budget gaps closed? First, there have been flaws in our models that we use to project our income and various fixed expenses. For example, last year, we projected a $25,000 decrease in our assessment income, but in the proposed 2025 budget, our assessment income was increased by $187,781 over the 2024 assessment income of roughly $5 million. So instead of a decrease of 0.5%, we were pleasantly surprised that our assessment income increased by 3.7%. While a delta of a bit over 4% isn't bad, we hope to further improve our models so that we can more accurately create future budget projections. Secondly, we have been able to find one-time windfalls to help close the budget gap. We also closely examine our various expense lines, looking for unused funds from previous year's budgets, as well as making adjustments based on program priorities. The good news is that projected gaps for the next few years are smaller than in previous years' projections. However, much of the low-hanging fruit has been harvested. We will therefore need to be much more mindful of mission priorities moving forward. Last year, the Diocesan Council established the Budget Strategy and Governance Committee to investigate and recommend improvements in how our budget is drafted and in the governance structures around the budget process. In September of this year, the BSG Committee completed its final report and submitted it to Diocesan Council for its consideration. The final report was over 30 pages and described a dozen different issues and challenges and provided short and long-term recommendations to address them. Some of the recommendations include improving how council members are recruited and how the new member orientation for newly elected and appointed council members could be improved. In addition, the BSG report recommends that the council provide guidance on mission and budget priorities earlier in the budget process. And since 2026 will be 5 years after our current mission strategy was adopted, and our canons require that we adopt a new mission strategy every 5 years, as we start that effort to draft the next mission strategy, we should align that mission strategy with the requirements in Canon 10. We will be working with Bishop-elect Julia and the Diocesan Council on the next steps of implementing the various recommendations made by the BSG, and I hope we will be able to make a report of improvements that we've made at the next convention. Finally, I'd like to give thanks and acknowledge many people who have contributed to the 2025 budget. In particular, I'd like to thank the Budget Committee, who has been meeting twice a month during the spring and summer months to complete the budget, and CFO Deb Thomas, Controller Tom Hamill, Director of Communications Tracy Sucraw, Bishops Allen and Carroll, and Canon to the Ordinary Bill Parnell. This year's budget would not have been possible without them. Thank you for your kind attention. I hope this presentation has been helpful. Members of the Budget Committee and I will be happy to answer any questions you might have at the upcoming pre-convention forums.